You are not lost. You've been hidden, and you have the power to go beyond the veil. Hi Celestials, welcome back to Beyond the Veil. In the last episode, we talked about what it looks like to walk in love when the world around you is pulling hard toward fear. And I meant every word of that, but I'd be doing you a disservice if I left it there, because there's something sitting right underneath that conversation that we need to name. A lot of people who speak beautifully about love, about light, about peace, aren't actually living in any of it. They're performing it. And the performance is so convincing that sometimes they even don't know the difference. Today, we're talking about spiritual bypassing, and we're talking about its opposite, what I'm calling sacred will. Because here's what I want you to walk away knowing. You can't follow your calling or read the signs of the universe if you're using your spirituality as a hiding place instead of a torch. By the end of this episode, you'll know how to recognize spiritual bypassing in your own life. And when you do, don't beat yourself up over it. We've all done it. The important part is seeing it clearly, because that's where the real growth begins. What is sacred will? Before we talk about spiritual bypassing, we need to talk about what we're actually aiming for. Because you can't recognize when you've wandered off the path if you don't even know where the path is or where it even leads. Whenever I say sacred will, I'm talking about the choice to become the highest expression of who you are capable of becoming. Every person carries gifts, strengths, perspectives, and possibilities that exist in potential long before they exist in reality. Sacred will is the decision to develop them, to embody them, and to bring them into the world. Every one of us comes into this life carrying gifts, strengths, perspectives, and possibilities that are uniquely our own. Some people spend their lives developing those gifts. Others live their lives hiding from them. The potential exists in both cases, but potential alone will change nothing. Sacred will is the choice to move toward your highest potential instead of away from it. There is an ancient concept called the Anthropos. You can think of this as your highest potential fully realized, the wisest version of you, the bravest version of you, the most loving, honest, capable, and fully expressed version of you. The spiritual path is the process of growing toward that version, one choice at a time. Some describe Anthropos through the image of an acorn that carries the blueprint potential of the oak tree. I like that image, but human beings have something an acorn doesn't have: choice. We can cooperate with our growth, resist it, delay it, or ignore it completely. That's where sacred will enters the story. Sacred will is the decision to actively participate in becoming who you are capable of being. The spiritual life in this understanding is the process of closing the gap between your current expression and your highest potential. Every lesson learned, every fear faced, every gift developed, and every truth embraced narrows that gap. The question isn't whether potential exists. The question is whether we'll participate in its development or not. Life continually presents opportunities to grow, learn, face difficult truths, and develop the gifts that we've been given. Each of those moments asks the same question: who are you becoming? Sacred will is our answer. Rudolf Steiner approached this idea from a different direction. He taught that human beings are active participants in their own evolution. Every honest choice, every lesson integrated, every limitation faced, and every gift developed becomes a part of that spiritual process. Sacred will lives in that participation. It lives in the willingness to engage your own growth instead of waiting for transformation to just happen on its own. And that brings us directly to spiritual bypassing. What bypassing is and why it happens. Spiritual bypassing is using your beliefs, your practices, your vocabulary to avoid the things you actually need to face. What makes it nearly impossible to catch is that it doesn't look like avoidance. It can look like devotion, or it can sound like wisdom. And from the inside, it genuinely feels like peace. That's why the Buddhist teacher who first named this thing called it insidious, because the language is coded with something that seems holy. You've heard it. You may have even said it. I've released that. I'm not attached to the outcome. Everything in divine timing. I forgive them and I move on. Sometimes those things are genuinely true, but a lot of the time they're a spiritual door we walk through to get away from something we don't want to feel. Neuroscience actually has something to say here. The nervous system doesn't distinguish between emotional avoidance and physical protection. When something feels too threatening to face, the same biological systems that protect you from physical danger activate. Your body genuinely believes it's keeping you safe. And that's why bypassing doesn't feel like cowardice from the inside. It feels more like wisdom, and it feels like maturity. Two beliefs are running underneath almost every form of spiritual bypassing. The first is, I can't face it. And that's the small one. It's not a conscious thought, usually more like a low hum beneath the surface. A belief that whatever is coming up is too much, too old, too threatening to look at. So the spiritual practice becomes the thing you reach for to make the feeling stop, rather than move through it. The second belief is that some emotions are bad, that anger is beneath you. Grief means you're not trusting, that fear means your energy is off. The moment that hierarchy gets built, the bypass is already primed, because those emotions are coming anyway. You're human, and when they arrive, the avoidance will activate almost automatically. There's also a version that nobody talks about enough. Bypassing doesn't only run towards the light. You can bypass through darkness too. The person locked into a permanent warrior posture, who sees every gentle teaching as a trap, who can't receive anything soft without suspecting it. That's also avoidance. Different costume, but same mechanism. Both directions are ways of staying in a comfortable quadrant instead of doing the actual work of becoming. Think of it this way. A boat with its anchor dropped to the bottom of the ocean, you can turn the engine on full swing, run it perfectly, and that boat is not going anywhere. Not because the engine is broken, but because the anchor is still down. Bypassing is that anchor. You can pray, meditate, attend every workshop, and say all the right things. But if the wound underneath it remains untouched, the growth you're seeking never fully arrives. The spiritual practice keeps moving while the deeper issue stays exactly where it is. John's story. I want to tell you about a man I'll call John. John genuinely loved spiritual things. He prayed every morning. He rarely missed a service. He volunteered whenever help was needed. And he was the person people called whenever they needed a prayer, a helping hand, or someone to listen. Most people who knew John would have described him as deeply devoted. The truth is, they wouldn't have been wrong. John wasn't pretending. He was truly sincere. He really did want to grow. The problem, however, was that growth and preparation slowly became the same thing in his mind. You see, years earlier, John had felt a calling on his life, a sense that he was meant to create something, build something, contribute something uniquely his own to the world. The feeling never completely left him, and every so often, something would crack the routine he had built around himself. He would encounter an idea that didn't fit inside the beliefs he'd inherited. He would feel the familiar pull toward a path he had spent years avoiding. Deep down, John knew what it was. He felt called to help people heal. He felt called to explore spiritual truths that stretched beyond the boundaries he had been given. A calling to ask questions most people around him were afraid to ask. And every time that calling stirred, fear arrived right behind it. John never called it fear, of course. He called it being responsible, telling himself that he needed a stronger foundation, a little more understanding and certainty before stepping into something that important. So whenever life invited him forward, he found another reason to stay exactly where he was. John became incredibly knowledgeable. He could explain spiritual concepts for hours and hours. He knew the teachings. He knew all the terminology. And he knew the history. What he never seemed to find was the right moment to begin. Whenever life invited him forward, John found a reason to wait. Not yet, maybe tomorrow. The timing wasn't quite right. There were still questions that he hadn't answered. A few more years of study seemed very wise before taking a step that could change everything. Soon, though, every moment that required courage became another season of preparation. It felt responsible. It even felt very wise. What it never did was moving closer to the life he believed he was called to live. Years later, John looked around and noticed something unsettling. People who had started after him had built businesses, written books, created their own communities, shared their gifts, and their lives changed. Many of them knew less than he did. Many of them were less prepared than he was. The difference wasn't knowledge. The difference was that they had been willing to begin before they felt ready. For the first time, John started asking difficult questions. Had all those years of preparation actually been for preparation? Or had preparation become a hiding place? Because the truth was hard to ignore. John had spent decades studying transformation, while remaining largely unchanged. He had collected maps and never taken the journey, learning the language of growth while avoiding the experiences that actual growth required. That's what makes spiritual bypassing so difficult to recognize. John never thought he was avoiding his path. From his perspective, he was being thoughtful, careful, and very responsible. Years passed before he realized those reasons had become a place to hide. Some people spend their lives seeking new books, new teachings, new answers, new experiences. And seeking does have value. But at some point, the path asks for participation. It asks us to take what we've learned and embody it, to truly feel it and be it. John never stopped seeking. What he struggled with was becoming. Years can pass that way, decades sometimes. You keep circling the life you're meant to live, gathering more knowledge about the path than experience walking it. How to tell the difference. So how do you actually know? Because this is not about shaming yourself for every prayer or every moment of peace that you found. That's not the point at all. Here's the clearest marker I can give you. Sacred will grows things. It produces actual change in your relationships, in your honesty, in your capacity to stay present with difficulty. Bypassing stagnates things. It keeps everything exactly as it is while looking and sounding like movement. If your spiritual practice is making you more alive, more honest, more capable of love, including the uncomfortable kind, you're moving with sacred will. If it's making you more comfortable, more separate, more certain that you're spiritually ahead of the people around you, slow down and take a closer look. Those are often the places where bypassing quietly takes root. The second marker is whether your beliefs are becoming visible in your life. What you say matters. What you understand matters more. And what you believe matters. But eventually, those things have to become actions, habits, and relationships, and choices. Collected wisdom does have value, but its real purpose is transformation. The teachings that matter most are the ones that become visible in our choices, our relationships, and the way that we move through the world. So, is the gap between what you believe and how you live getting smaller, or is it staying exactly the same? And then there's the hardest marker to see. The deepest bypassing rarely looks like avoidance. More often, it looks like dedication. It looks like endless preparation. It looks like gathering knowledge while postponing action. Like staying safely inside the role of the student long after life has invited you to become something more. That's why bypassing can survive for years. The behavior often looks admirable from the outside. Sometimes it even feels admirable from the inside. Spiritual practices are meant to move us toward our growth. They are tools that help us become more honest, more aware, and more fully expressed. When the practice is working, becoming should naturally follow. The cost of staying hidden. Here's why this matters for the life you're actually trying to build. Your calling, whatever shape that it takes, requires your authentic self to show up for it. The person living your life, facing your challenges, learning your lessons, and developing your gifts. That's the person your calling will grow through. Sacred will can't move through a mask. The gifts that you carry, your perception, and your ability to see what others miss, all of it gets filtered through what you're willing to be honest about in yourself. If there are whole rooms in your inner house that you never enter because you're convinced they're beneath your level, your calling will always be running at partial capacity. Your gifts may be fully present, yet only somewhat expressed. The places we avoid in ourselves often become the limits on what we're able to bring into the world. And the people you're here to serve can fill the gap even when they can't name it. They feel when the love is real and whenever it's performed. They feel when the wisdom is lived and whenever it's borrowed. Bypassing doesn't just cost you your own growth. It costs the people around you the version of you that they actually need. Walking in sacred will requires a willingness to be in process. Healing can be underway while life continues. Uncertainty can be present while forward movement continues. And telling the truth about who you are gives growth a place to begin. Every meaningful transformation starts there. You can't navigate from a false starting point. You just can't. And the calling on your life is too significant. And the people who need what you carry are too real for you to spend your best years making peace with the beautiful sounding spiritual bypass. Think about it. Your bypass check practice. Before we close, I want to leave you with a simple practice. But first, I want to rehabilitate the reputation of triggers for a moment. Many people treat triggers as problems. They try to get rid of them, suppress them, transcend them, or prove that they no longer have them. But I see them a bit differently. A trigger is information. A trigger reveals where something inside us is still active, still unresolved, still asking for attention. It shines a light on places we may not have fully explored yet. And that's why triggers can become valuable teachers. They show us where the next layer of growth is waiting for us. The question isn't whether you'll be triggered. The question is what you will do whenever it does happen. The next time something activates you with a trigger, pause for a moment before reacting and begin with awareness. Simply acknowledge what happened. Something in you reacted. Something in you was touched. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to solve it. You just need to recognize it's there. And then give yourself permission to experience the feeling that is being activated within you. Just feel it and notice it. Many people move straight from activation into analysis. Then they try to understand the feeling before they've actually felt it. Let emotion have a moment of honest existence first. Fear feels different than grief. Grief feels different than anger. Name what is actually present and allow it to be for a minute. Once you've done that, ask yourself a single question. Is what I'm about to do helping me move toward my highest expression or away from it? That question can reveal a lot. A spiritual practice can help us face something. A spiritual practice can also help us avoid something. The practice itself isn't the issue. The direction that we go with it actually matters. Are you bringing light into a place that needs attention, or are you looking for the fastest exit from discomfort? This practice isn't about staying stuck in pain. The goal is movement. The goal is growth. Authentic awareness simply gives growth a place to begin. And honestly, participation and engagement with life are the foundations of sacred will. From there, the next step usually becomes visible. And you got this. Celestial, you came into this life carrying something specific, something real, something the world genuinely needs from you. Spiritual language is easy to learn. Honest self-examination asks more of us. And divine sacred will grows through that sincerity. If something in this episode stirred you, sit with what it stirred. Don't reach for the bypass. Let it show you where the next door is. More teaching, more tools, and more of this community lives at www.celestialgrove.academy. And in the next episode, we're talking about something that becomes available once you stop bypassing. How to read the signs the universe is actually sending you. Because when the noise clears and the signals get louder, you're ready for that conversation. I'll see you there. And until then, keep walking through the veil with love.